The cognitive test for senior drivers. Age alone isn't the problem, competence is, and a basic driving test wouldn't measure leadership ability anyway. Better idea. Require transparent cognitive and health checks for all politicians, not just those over 70. I'd rather not allow 70-year-olds to be elected at all. LOL. Drivers in the US taking cognitive tests? You'd be shocked at the number who don't even have driver's licenses. What cognitive test do 70-year-olds take for a driving license? Compulsory retirement by 70 to all politicians. These offices should come with the same psych evaluations that our traffic controllers have to endure. Then the argument is, why shouldn't everybody have to pass that test? What do you mean by global? I'd be against it. The electorate should decide who it wants to lead. The circumstances that would lead to any kind of global rule being enacted sure would be interesting. You guys require cognitive tests to get a driver's license? I'd rather they be held to the same mandatory retirement age for other state or federal employees. To go further, every law or policy a politician makes should apply to everyone, including them. Outside of a few, clearly defined exceptions, every law should apply to everyone. Sadly, that's not going to easily happen in our system. If we test drivers for safety, it's reasonable to test leaders for decision-making. If you're passing laws that aren't personally going to affect you due to age, you're too old to be in government. I'd be okay with capping it at 65. Also, fucking term limits for everyone and no more lifetime salaries or Paxtoners. I'd rather them be no longer allowed to hold office. I would propose a stricter rule. Nobody over 70 can be a politician. Others must pass a test, but not just cognitive. Also emotional intelligence. Same rule that apply to a commercial pilot, mandatory retirement at age 65. Government won't let you pilot a plane with 300 passengers, but you have unfettered access to launch codes that can end the planet as we know it. Politicians are elected by intelligence or capacity to do the job. They are elected within sound bites and biased media. This isn't party-specific, it goes for any politician running. A poor person with good character and credentials from Podunk anywhere USA isn't going to get elected. I've always been a fan of a democratic meritocracy. Make all public officials have to both get elected and pass a standardized test based on the field they are applying for. Require all members of Congress and the cabinet to take and pass the U.S. citizenship test. If they fail, they are permanently barred from serving. Why even let them govern? Well, there are no such thing as global rules, and many countries don't even have cognitive tests for driving, so those tests are way too easy. A less than 5-minute test when you're rested does not have any real bearing on whether you could work well more than 40 hours a week, negotiate reasonably with people you don't really see eye to eye with, or understand new and complex issues and technologies that have only just emerged and thus are in need of legislation. The Constitution already has minimum age requirements for presidents, senators, and representatives. We should also have a maximum age. Like others here in the comments, I'd put forward 70. The bar to operate a car is higher than the bar to pass legislation affecting millions. That's kind of wild when you put it like that. Age alone feels like a rough proxy, though I'd rather see it tied to the role itself, not the birthday. Term limits would go a long way in solving the problem. It would be as well respected and enforced as any other global rule, so why not? How about we start with stopping the corruption and dirty money all over many countries' political systems? Young, bright-eyed politicians who are wholly owned by some billionaire and not necessarily better than what we are getting now. This step is neither necessary nor sufficient to make a dent, but it might distract us for a long time. LOL, it Reddit sometimes. Global rules. What if we require every politician to pay me $1? I like that as a global rule. As far as the elderly in general go, I support taking driving from them, but only if we have the means to supplement their driving needs, because Granny still needs to get groceries and meds and stuff. Instead of that, why not just set a retirement age for politicians? If you're too old, you can't run. Let them enjoy their retirement from politics. They can run think tanks and non-profits if they still sharp wanna stay in politics. We would just end up with elected officials making driver's license tests absurdly easy to get. I don't think a driving test is a good indicator, as that can be failed by reaction speed, eyesight, and perhaps just a bad driver in general. I believe doctors already have cognitive testing that can detect mental decline. Those would be better suited if we implemented something like that. Edit. I'm assuming you're talking about inbuilt-in cognitive testing for driving test. When I grew up, there wasn't such a thing. Not sure if it's regional. Honestly, kinda makes sense, like if you need to drive a car safely, maybe you shouldn't be running a country either. Couldn't hurt to see a few old dudes squirm over a memory test instead of just watching them stubbornly cling to office chairs. Still too old. Why not make it 45 to make up for all the damage boomers have done? Good luck with getting all the countries to agree with that. Ageism. If there is a cognitive test, Jim Crow, anyone, all people running for office should have to take it. Maybe a wild idea. Don't elect a candidate that you deem too old. If you put the bar at X, someone else will say, why not Y? It's also a moving target with rising life expectancy. I think this is the wrong approach. Anyone over 70 should automatically be excluded from public office, and if in office, retired automatically from their office at age 70. It's time for the old folks to get out of the way and mentor younger folks for these roles, since the younger folks have to live longer with the results of their actions. There is an interesting study about superagers. Northwestern in Chicago is one place. The study looks for people who remain sharp and compare to those of people 20 years younger. Their goal is not to test politicians, but to look at lifestyle changes to help longevity. Only as long as you require it of all elected officials. Winston Churchill was about 80 when he left office. Dolly Parton? Warren Buffett? I don't think it should be a requirement. However, I think all of them should take the test and have the results published. For all ages of politicians. The psychometrician in me screams that this test is not valid, though it seems quite reliable. I don't even think allowing politicians over 70 to be elected is a good thing at all. I'd feel much better about a global rule forcing politicians to retire at 70. Having different requirements for different demographics is straight up anti-democratic. You're trying to create a rule to filter out people you don't think should be able to hold office to avoid the possibility of the public choosing them. Black people, Latinos, and American Indian people experience cognitive issues earlier and have a higher risk on average than white people. Should the threshold be different for them? Same with men compared to women. How about obese people? Diabetics? Point being, we already have a way to assess candidates' ability to do the job: elections. Let people vote for who they want. Focus on making the case for qualified people instead of trying to add sweeping restrictions on who can run in the first place.